Good evening. It's November 15th, 2016. The Sharks lose a nail biter 1-0 to Carolina HC. I'm sorry. I was in soccer mode for a second there. The Sharks lose 1-0 to the Carolina Hurricanes. Somewhere in San Jose, Drew Weber is smiling, thinking that his Carolina Hurricanes could make the playoffs. No. Just no. Just no. Welcome to this edition of Pucknology After Dark. I am Eric Kura. You'll recognize me as Puckguy14 on Twitter. Make sure you hang out with us all through the night here. We'll get to the proceedings in just a second, but we'd like to remind you that Pucknology After Dark is powered by Audible. We've partnered with them to offer a free 30-day trial. You can choose from over 180,000 audiobooks and get a free audiobook to keep whether you choose to continue using the service or not. Go to audibletrial.com/PAD to sign up. You get a free book. You help support the show. Everybody wins! Like Carolina tonight. That's audibletrial.com/PAD. With that being said, we will jump in and say hello to Randall Hahn. Good evening, sir.
What's going on, guys? Just hanging out in the Target parking lot in San Jose right now. Didn't expect to get on the show tonight, but
all good. Your connection's lagging just a little bit there. Also with us from the Pucknologist podcast, which you should check out every week.
Happy to join.
This hockey jerk.
Jones would have stopped that goal.
Oh, shut up.
Game. I mean, we can go.
All right. If you want to be a part of the show, by all means, join the conversation using the hashtag PucknologyAD. You can follow us on Twitter. You have Puckguy14, along with Hockey_Jerk, and of course, Honor. Let me get it right. HAHNNERR.
Got it.
Yes.
Sorry, by the way, if I'm being really annoying moving my camera around. I'm holding my phone and using it as a camera. I'm trying to get the sexiest possible angle while sitting in the Target parking lot, and I'm still working on it. So I apologize.
You're bringing the sexy back to Pucknology After Dark. We appreciate that immensely. While I put my hat on backwards to kind of bring it back down. Let's start off with tonight's game. Hockey Jerk. Kudos to Dell, but it's one of those frustrating ones tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have any qualms with this game short of the, lack of face-off winning and just overall kind of lackluster, I guess, drive in the end of the second and third period. It was definitely a game that was going to end because of a lucky bounce. I didn't see really either team really coming out in the third and burying one off a nice shot or anything like that. It was okay.
Randall, what did you take from tonight?
Okay, so going back to my playing hockey days, I'm not saying I was a superstar or anything, but we had a couple tournaments where, let's say we'd have 2 games in one day. You didn't have much time in between game that day. You might have a day and a half break until your next game. You would think that would help you going into the next game, but realistically, you just get off your step and you just your hype is level. You're not as as you were earlier. You might have played better in the strategy, but you're used to the rhythm and the tempo. And I think that's kind of a rare trip off in Carolina or in Charlotte, and that's not a boring town. It's a nice town, especially this time of the year. It's not that cold. Players can hang out. I know they all had the day off. A couple guys went to the movies. It's a typical game for your guys to come out and not have their legs, not being able to communicate. And it's a typical Sharks performance as well. You have 3 great road wins, including 2 you're shutting down 2 of the top forwards in the NHL, and Alexander Ovechkin and Steven Stamkos. And then you're facing Carolina, who essentially has no offensive superstar, yet they still find a way to beat us by only scoring 1 goal. And it's our backup who has a great performance, but we don't reward him with the win. If anything, what I take out of this game is that it's a reality check, because after those 3 road wins, that team is walking around, their heads are held high. They're thinking the big shots in the NHL still. And then they go into Carolina and they lose 1-0. Like, that just has to make them aware that, you have to bring your A game every night. Doesn't matter if you have 2 days off. You have to have the mission in sight. And I think that's a good lesson to go through at this point of the season rather than at other points.
You make a great point there in the sense that, yeah, you want to have these games early on. However, this one, Aaron Dell stood on his head tonight. I mean, he had a 32 saves on 33 shots. Hockey Jerk, there was mention definitely on the broadcast tonight on the one-on-one battles. Of course, kind of breaking down what Randall just said on the face-offs. It was a really tough one for them to really take tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, Randall put it nicely. The extra day off, I think, definitely, I guess, made things a little harder to get going. It was one of those games where you're in your zone getting pressure put on for so long that by the time you do get the puck, all you can do is just chip it out and go for a change. And so, especially towards the later stages of the game, it was hard for the Sharks to get any pressure. And I don't want to say that the Sharks just were the shittiest team ever and they had the worst game and fire everyone and World Cup preseason, blah, 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 all the excuses. I just think Carolina played really well, and that's the bottom line.
Right.
Yeah, they are kind of hot too. They had a good home win the other night with Aho getting his first 2 goals. That was a good emotional win. They beat Washington. That's it. I see Carolina kind of as like the Sharks of the East, except they had that 1 cup win as to the difference. We've had more consecutive playoff success. But I would say with the type of market and the type of fans that they're attracting, that they would essentially be the Sharks of the East.
Yeah, they definitely played the Sharks game, I thought, tonight with good puck possession, definitely playing keep away, and definitely maintaining control of the. Somebody's letting off a horn there.
Sorry, that was somebody
you're
2 blocks over.
You're good. But definitely Carolina seemed to kind of shove the Sharks' play right back at them, where they had good puck possession in the offensive zone. Definitely in the neutral zone, they kind of dictated play a little bit, and especially in the second period. Randall, I mean, just 2 shots on goal in the second period. It seemed like the Sharks were getting worked, and unfortunately, it got them fairly tired pretty quickly.
They don't have chemistry on their offense yet. They just don't. Bodker, it's definitely not what I've expected at first. I hate to say this, but I think he has the Marlowe syndrome. And in that, I mean, when he's on his game and he's performing at the top of his level, he's going to be the most impressive guy on the ice, and you're going to notice him every time he's out there, and he's going to be the fastest guy, and he's going to be around the puck the whole game. But if he's not involved in the game that night, and Marlowe's notorious for this, you'll look at the score sheet and you'll be like, wait, did Marlowe even play tonight? I didn't see him touch the puck once. I didn't hear his name called once by the announcer. It's just a weird thing that Marlowe's had a trend with, and I kind of see it with Bodker. I'm hoping he's going to turn it on, and I think we're going to really see him being more useful when we get to a 3-on-3 situation in overtime. We haven't had too many overtime games at this point, and once he gets a little bit more chemistry on the second line power play, that's when he had 6 power play goals last season. That'll come into effect as well. He doesn't know the systems. This is also the team's second year in it. They played 10 guys in the World Cup. It's November. It's their second long road trip. Where we're sitting right now is a lot better than where we were at least last year.
Right. In Hockey Jerk, you said this before many times. We kind of wait for that quarter pull to kind of judge the team as to where they should be long in the run for the playoffs. Is that where we kind of start getting like a real look from management saying, okay, this is what we got after 20 games. What can we do to get better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a GM, you're always looking to put out the best product, whether it's, at the trade deadline or Thanksgiving or the second week of the season. But I don't know. I think the Sharks have the lug, call it that, of playing in a pretty shitty division, so they can afford longer to see where their team is at. Have anyone kind of on their heels short of Anaheim.
Yeah.
Here's my take on all this.
Okay.
The way I look at our Sharks team is the way I look at, let's say, the 2012 Giants. This team is not built for a regular season. This team is built for a playoff run. I mean,
absolutely.
Can you name what? Can you remember one regular season goal that Joel Ward scored last year? Because I really can't, but I could name 3 right now in the playoffs that were huge. Don Scoray, I can name maybe 1 or 2 regular season goals, but he had some huge playoff goals. Players like Couture led playoffs in scoring. He hasn't really met up to his potential, but he's also been going through a transition, sort of stepping into that elite player, also noticing that he's going to be relied upon as the number 1 center on this team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not good at faceoffs. He's just not.
Yeah.
But this team is built for the playoffs. Martin Jones, he's going to be playing a lot of games, but if Dell keeps playing the way he is, he's going to get a little bit more nights off, and I think Dell's going to get a couple more appearances. But the 4 games at home next week, like, we have this brutal road trip, and then we're at home. I think it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m., and then Saturday 7:30, and then we're back home the next night. It's like the schedule is not very favorable to us during this holiday season, but it's going to be big to see what the record is at the turnaround, because I think either way, once it's February, we're going to be on our game, and we're going to be going into playoff mode like we did last year.
Yeah, no, and I think that's where it's going to happen, is that since you have so much such a tight schedule, you can't have like those lackadaisical games. You can't have that Pittsburgh game like we saw last week. But
if you do, you just brush it off and you focus on the next one, because it's still worth the same amount of points and it's still early.
That's true, but like they say,
I know what you're saying.
You got it's early, but you better get going because it's getting late. It's one of my things. A couple of questions in the chat I want to jump on. First off, Sleepy Mofo saw a couple of comments you said in here tonight. It was a trap game. Yeah, I could see that, especially since you play against low against Carolina, but you played well through 3 games. You kind of like you said, Randall. You've gone into you come to Carolina. Maybe your feet's not on it. Maybe you're starting to have that looking forward to as you head back west when you get to play St. Louis. Then you have a late afternoon game against Arizona. What's the other one I was looking at?
Can I just interject real quickly? I just want to say this while it's still relevant. Not that I'm picking on anybody, but when trap game is referenced, I just can't help but think of it as a coach's term for him not being able to explain his team getting lucky bounces and the other team just not being able to get their stick on the puck and just everything going right for their team and the other team just not getting anything their way. I think it's just the coach's smart way of saying, yeah, we played a trap style, we put them in that position. It's just, I just always find it funny. The Sharks will beat the Carolina Hurricanes 8 out of 10 times.
Right.
Tonight just wasn't that one, and it was the one day we had a day off, and it was the one day we didn't face a superstar. It's just, that's hockey, and that's why this sport's great. You're not going to see that in the NBA. You're not going to see
that's for sure.
You're not going to see the New Jersey Nets beating the Golden State Warriors. Like, you're not going to see that, especially in a playoff series. You're not going to see upsets. And, that's why this sport's so interesting, and you don't know what score is going to happen any given night. Columbus could win 8-0 one night.
Let's see here. Like Gen X said in the chat. Sorry, go ahead, Hockey Jerk.
I was just going to say, Randall brings up a really good point because I have a friend. I have a friend who does like the 1 day fantasy sport thing, and you know, she always tries to do hockey, and she's not a hockey person, but she always says, hey, who should I pick? Who should who's
Retarded.
good? And that's the thing is with hockey. No, I mean, with a few exceptions, the same guy is not going to put out the same effort every night. It's pretty much a different guy every night who's doing something. So,
Unless your name is Sidney Crosby. That's the only guy in the NHL you could really depend on upon for a point a game right now.
right. No, you exactly. But what I'm saying is that every player is going to have a different output. Some nights they're going to score 2 goals. Some nights they won't score at all. So the NHL is it's probably the only sport where you literally get a different outcome every time. And so it's not fair to be upset when a team wins 3 in a row and then they lose 1 by a really close score on a lucky bounce. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so much of the game is momentum, and it's all felt on the bench emotionally, psyche. Just looking at the guys on the bench, like you can feel, like just the feeling of like, oh shit, like we're panicking, or don't worry, we know we're gonna score. We've been getting this goalie all night. We just haven't been getting our bounces. Like you can get a feel for the game within the first 5 minutes, and it's really hard to shake that off. Intermissions are a good time to try, but that's what good teams are able to do, or just wipe the slate clean at the end of a period and then come out fresh. But like in the NFL daily, like if you're playing a certain team's defense and they suck, like you pick Cam Newton because he's going to throw 3 touchdowns and run for 2 or whatever. But just because the Sharks are playing the New Jersey Devils, that doesn't mean you pick Logan Couture because he's going to score 2 goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Ian Reed said in the chat. Hi, Ian, by the way. Perspective Montreal, lost 10-0, and yet they're 8-2 in their last 10. They've had 3 solid performances. This game could be meaningless by the weekend. Absolutely, and I don't think it was even that bad of a performance. I just think there were certain aspects that the team didn't execute too well, and unfortunately, just those little things, which sometimes in some games you don't really get looked at, but in a game where it was 1-0, tend to get magnified.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Panthers, the Lightning, and the Capitals were all high seeds in the Eastern Conference last season, and we beat them all on the road, considering no superstars scored against us. Vlasic and Braun shut them down.
Yeah, I mean they had a shutout against Washington.
Tampa is elite. I think they're the best team in the East, aside from Pittsburgh. Tampa has so many weapons. They're so young, and they were completely shut out by us. But then again, if they play us again and their offense is clicking, they could score 6 goals on us.
Yeah, I mean it could be one of those, 3-1 one game, but then it could be 6-2 the other way around. But I mean, look what the defense did in that game. They held Stamkos to just 1 shot on goal. Now, as a defense in whole, and I'll throw this to you, Hockey Jerk, to start. I didn't think it was that bad of an effort tonight. I just thought it was 1 bad bounce that led to Nordstrom getting the puck and scoring on the backhander.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I said earlier, there were extended stretches where the Hurricanes were really putting the pressure on in our zone. But if you notice, every single time that was happening, they weren't scoring just because of how good Dell played, but how good the defense did at as long
Sticks
as it did.
in the lane.
Yeah, exactly. Sticks in the lane, forcing him to the outside. And I've said it all season, and I'm going to say it again. If you want to score goals, shoot the puck. And the Sharks did a really good job of making sure the Hurricanes didn't do that in the first and then parts of the second period. And really on the goal, like it was probably the first bad play from Schlemko and Dylan all year. And even then, if you're in the position of David Schlemko, what more can you do? You know what I mean? It's Dell was out. Dell was out. You were covering your guy. There's literally nothing else you can do. So you just have to brush it off and get your head down and just go back to work.
Yep. So moving on, I think overall.
Are there any more questions? I can't see any of them.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. Like A012345, Sharks made a good job on keeping no shots on both sides, especially the Sharks in the second. Um, you won't look back on the Pittsburgh home loss when you're looking at four could have been points, but 1-0 loss stays fresh. Yeah, that's true. It does stay fresh, real fresh actually, as I would say.
It's not okay. So if Carolina was a good team, they would have beat us 4-5 nothing tonight.
Yeah,
because they didn't outplay us. We beat ourselves because our legs were slow. We just didn't have any chemistry. The guys weren't going. Our goalie showed up, and
goalie showed up big time.
But then again, Carolina didn't really. They just don't bring that much of a threat. Like, you're not really too scared when they're skating down the ice. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different Jeff Skinner skating down the ice than, let's say, Eastern Conference has a superstar, because is that their superstar or forward, Skinner?
Yeah, I'd probably say so.
Yeah, in my opinion, they're the worst team in the East, and that's once again another typical Sharks loss. Like, they'll lose both games against the worst team in the East, but then they'll sweep the home and home against the first place team, outscoring them 10-1.
Exactly, exactly.
Like what they're doing with the Capitals.
No, precisely. I mean, that's right on point. It's one of those things, and that's the NHL. I remember one game. This is going way back when, in '96, Detroit was going for the record for most wins in a season. The Sharks were dead last in the Western Conference, and they somehow beat them 6-3 in a game in March. So anything can happen. Nonetheless, and we'll finish up on this game. Dell, he deserves more starts, especially after tonight. Would you say maybe he starts on Saturday against Arizona to finish up the road trip?
Why not? He didn't get the start there last time. That building sucks. Like, I hate playing there. Like, it's not like it's intimidating or anything. It's just like there's just so many just shit games played there. And, like, I've been there for a couple games, and I remember this is, like, the most sad professional hockey moment I've ever personally endured. Like, the peak is the Stanley Cup Finals, and this is the very bottom. It was President's Day weekend in Phoenix, and it was the Monday, and they had a game at 1 p.m., Sharks Coyotes, and they gave away free lunch boxes to the first 10,000 kids that showed up. 6,800 total fans.
Whoops.
They had a couple extra lunch pails, you could say.
Oh, well, they can always
sell those. He should get that start. I mean, he should have got it the last time they were there, and Jones is going to get the start on Tuesday. Well, let's think about the home games, because we've got the Blackhawks on the Friday. I'm assuming that they're going to want Jones in net for that game.
They play the Devils on.
I'm sorry, you're right. The Blackhawks is the Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, and then the Devils.
Yeah, they play the Devils on Monday.
So have
Blackhawks Wednesday.
So then maybe Jones ends up getting errors. Why not give Dell the next one, and then give Jones the Devils? No, give Jones the season the road trip finale, and then Dell gets the Devils, and then Jones gets the Hawks. Okay. And then Dell gets the night after.
Ian, what do you think? Do you give him Saturday, or do you give him something next week?
I think
he's been impressive. You got to keep the hot hand rolling, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, because we play. Let's see. Is it St. Louis or is it Arizona first?
You play St. Louis Thursday, Arizona Saturday, Monday New Jersey, Wednesday Chicago, Friday Islanders, Saturday Ducks.
It should go.
I think you have Thursday for St. Louis, just because of the implications that come into it. Western Final rematch, that sort of thing. Arizona obviously is going to be. I'd say obviously, but who knows? They might give us the harder task. I don't know. I think Dell Saturday, and possible that we see Dell start 2 straight games, but then at the same time, I don't know. I feel like Peter DeBoer, some days he's like, oh, we have 2 goalies and we have confidence in both of them. And then the other days he's like, oh, Jones is our guy.
Dell should have more than 2 starts by now.
Yeah, and I think because the games have been spread out there, you still have a boatload of back-to-backs coming.
And that has nothing to do with Jones' performance. That has absolutely
no,
Jones' performance.
No, not at all. I think they're kind of saving. To me, it seems like in Hockey Jerk, correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're saving them for the back-to-backs, which occur later in the season, where you're going to need to give Jones a rest before the playoffs begin.
Yeah.
Hockey Jerk.
Sorry, I AOL'd.
All good. But yeah, I would think that they would have them be definitely more on the back-to-backs once you get once you get into the later in the season, give Jones a rest.
But I guess either way, our backup goaltending need is kind of sealed. I guess we're fine for now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless we get an injury, maybe, like, God forbid. Like,
and I don't know. I mean, yes, the Sharks play when they lose. It is concerning, but like I said earlier, the Sharks they really should be advantage of how weak the Pacific Division is, because if they can get a nice spread on things early, then they can. I don't want to say that they can go in with the mindset of, oh, well, it's okay if we lose this one, but if they can get a nice spread early, then they're gonna be sitting nice when the springtime rolls around.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember we were like freaking out after like a game around this time last year. I think it might have been like a 1-0 loss in Buffalo or something like that. And then we were all just like bumming out. And then we were like, you know what? Maybe when Couture comes back, everything will get better. And you know what? I think once these mass amount of games are played through the holiday season, going into January, once the All-Star weekend in February comes up, I think the Sharks are going to have a sizable lead, whether it's in first or second. I don't see anybody in the division beating us. I don't think Edmonton can keep it up unless this team is just on a run. And, like, with these young guys right now, we don't know, like, Patrick Laine. I mean, I don't know if anybody remembers, but I predicted him over Matthews, Rookie of the Year. And I'm sitting pretty on that one right now. I took that one online. I actually did. I also took – can you believe this? Vegas had Couture at 56 points total for the season. And so I'm thinking, what? I'm going to take the over. And right now I'm just like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm really surprised from Logan, just from tonight, but this season alone.
He's having to face the big boys, the number 1 centers, or sometimes the number 2. Like, the Pacific Division has huge centers. Like, Anze Kopitar, like, Martin Hansel is really underrated, and Joe Thornton will even say this. It's because of his size and the way he's able to use his body, and that's a lot of what being a center is. It's just using your bodies in the corner and just your face-offs, and just it's a lot about being big, and that's why Hertl needs to be effective as a center, because he's a big boy. Pavelski is not a big boy. We need Hertl as the number 2 center.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't – in the few games that he's been at center, I haven't really hated Hertl's play. I mean, he's noticeably better at face-offs, especially in the game against Tampa Bay. I believe he was 9 of 12, and it's not coming up on the score sheet, but he's definitely – I don't want to say he's excelling, but he's not totally floundering at center either. And
no.
And I think the beauty
well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the beauty of this team is that you can afford to have, say, your best player not score on a ridiculous pace because you have other key guys who are jumping in and scoring.
We're stacked.
Exactly.
We're stacked. Like,
you look at Tampa Bay.
Pavelski, Thornton, Donskoy, Ward, Hertl. Like, we have 6-7 guys that could easily score 20 goals. There's not very many other teams in the West, and they're going to get their goals.
Exactly. And you look at Tampa Bay, I mean, who scored there? It was Vlasic, not a guy who scores a lot. Marlowe, not a guy who scores a lot recently. And then Tommy Wingles, who up until
he's weird. He scores weird times.
Exactly.
He scores Torrey Mitchell like goals.
Yeah, exactly. Like he'll go 20 games without scoring, and then he gets a breakaway and undresses
Dangle,
the goalie.
spinorama, top shelf.
And I think we saw in the broadcast tonight, I think he's like one of 7 players to have back-to-back game-winning goals on the road. I'm like, wow, okay. Go figure. So let's get to around the league before we start previewing St. Louis. In Toronto, it's the Leafs 6-2. That's about to go final over the Nashville Predators.
Jesus.
It's that's unbelievable.
It's not, though. They're the Cubs of the NHL. They got the John Madden at their coach. They got Babcock. They got the young guys. They got Austin Matthews as Chris Brown. Like it's the same thing. It's just sick.
And
Mitch Marner.
In overtime right now, it's 3-3 between the Panthers and Canadiens. See, I still think the Panthers are going to be a solid team. They're just going through
Did
a rough
anybody
bout.
else think that Weber was going to be this much better than Subban this early?
I didn't.
Neither
Hockey
did I.
Jerk?
I think
No,
Subban's going to
honest-
come around, but I didn't think Weber was going to be doing this well.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point. And we hear it all the time, especially the last couple of years in the playoffs. How many NBC analysts have said, there are 16 teams who could win the Stanley Cup, and there's so much parity and this, that, and the other. And it's true. There are more good teams, or there are more than 16 good teams.
Oh yeah.
And so we are past the age of taking teams lightly. Like I can remember 10 years ago, the Sharks would roll into LA and it'd be like, all right, we should have this sewed up. We're past having winnable games, I think.
Yeah, Winnipeg's not winnable. Like Calgary's tough. Minnesota, that's a tough game. Vancouver is like really the one easy game, I think. Like Phoenix plays us well.
Yeah.
But even with Vancouver being the worst team in the Western Conference and theoretically should be a winnable game, they're a very physical team. So,
and it's Vancouver. It's just weird.
Exactly. Like so they can grind us down and then bounces go a certain way and all of a sudden Vancouver's winning 2-1.
And then all of a sudden there's some douchebags wearing green things throwing Eggo waffles at guys on the bench, and then we get a suspension because the guy takes a swing at him. Just
go figure,
right? Yeah.
Justin, Florida beats Montreal in overtime. So that's a 4-3 Panthers over the Canadiens. Sorry, go ahead.
So Montreal is on trade alert, right? So I was shopping for a second D-man.
I was going to say Montreal loses their first game in forever, and so now they're not making the playoffs, right?
Should they just give Weber the captaincy now? Should they just rip off the C now? The locker room's dysfunctional.
Watch out, Patrick.
Overtime.
You're in trouble. Oh boy!
If you haven't noticed, all of us here at Pucknology After Dark like to make light of those who fell off everything 6 weeks into the season.
Funniest experience I ever had in between an intermission. It was probably my first ever playoff, and Kyle McLaren was still on the team. And we were losing in the playoffs, and it was an elimination game. We were down by 2. And I remember if we were going to lose that series, Ron Wilson was going to lose his job. I remember that. And everybody was freaking out. And we were down by 2, and Kyle McLaren just whips out a cigarette and just starts smoking it right in the middle of the locker room. And, apparently that used to happen a lot. I hear Ally Furdy used to do that.
Yep.
Sergei Zubov. But this was in 07, 08, and Kyle McLaren's just whipping out a stogie right in the middle of the Sharks locker room, just 13 years old. I'm just like, Jesus. This is crazy.
People in the chat saying Vancouver is being punished for their 2011 riots. Gen X is saying Montreal
That's not the team's
is rioting.
fault. That's just the friggin' idiot people in that city who aren't hockey fans that just wanted to be dumbasses, just like the people doing the riots in Oakland. I'm not even going to.
Never mind. No. We're not getting into politics.
Now.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I'm stopping.
Thank you. Moving on to the rest of the scores, it's tied 3-3 between the Lightning and the Red Wings, or as I like to call it, the Maple Wings versus the Red Wings.
We're going to close out the Joe Lou in our first non-playoff season.
I'd be stunned. That'd be a stunner, sadly.
The Shark. They don't have a good team. It's the first year they don't have a good team.
Calgary early in the third is up 1-0 on Minnesota. These are games in progress right now. Winnipeg is up 1-0 on the Blackhawks early in the third period.
I'm sure Line A is involved somehow.
Well, I hope so, since he's on my fantasy team. The Devils and Stars are tied 1-1 after 2 periods. If somebody can tell me if Nemo's in net, because then we can give them the overtime victory to New Jersey right then and there. Colorado 2, LA nothing. That's in the middle of the second period. We have games that are just getting underway. The Rangers versus Vancouver. It's 0-0 early in the first period.
Sorry to interject, but Niemi is in fact in net.
Thank you. All right, congrats, Devils. You'll probably win that game. And also, let's see, Edmonton and Anaheim is scoreless, and that just pretty much started. Also, going into a shootout, that's a final. Ottawa won 3-2. And then in overtime, Columbus beats the Capitals 2-1.
So sorry to just interject with this. I just haven't talked to you guys in a while. Where do you rank Connor McDavid as in players in the league, like rank-wise?
Top 5.
I have him number 2 right now.
Yeah, I would say top 5, if not top 3. I would think
this is something we haven't seen before. Ovechkin wasn't like this his rookie year. It wasn't like this when he first came out. This guy's just it's unbelievable.
I don't even think.
I'm happiest for Drew.
Yeah, oh gosh, Drew's must be going nuts.
I see Edmonton score and I just start cheering for Drew.
Drew's having fun, and I can't wait to see what that place looks like in Edmonton. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about Rogers Place.
Yeah, I'm excited about Vegas, too, and now this Arizona
place
is going to be sick.
Trust me.
San Jose is going to have to start thinking about something in a decade because these rival cities are putting up some nice stuff.
Trust me, Vegas, I can't wait for the first Sharks game in Vegas. And I know
really?
Brody's. Oh yeah. We'll make. I'm gonna make like a 3-day or 4-day weekend out of that one. And apparently,
real fans can't do that because it's going to be too frequent of a thing. They're going to be an in-division thing. That's the thing that the one fan that goes to one game a year does. They get way too drunk and they don't even watch the game.
I don't even drink though, so I'm cool with
then
that.
Why go to Vegas for 3-4 days? You're gonna go see the Tiger show? Like I hear one of the guys has half a face now. Like why would you do that?
Oh jeez.
I hear David Blaine's got some new stuff cracking. The Blue Man Group, they still doing. Why would you go if you're not gonna drink? Like I don't drink, Vegas. So I'm not gonna go to Vegas.
Well, I don't.
I'll go to Vegas to watch the game and enjoy the ambiance.
No, yeah, absolutely. But I will
not for 4 days.
Not for 4 days. Well, depending on when.
Well, yeah, a playoff series in the Western Conference Finals.
It should be interesting for sure. Nonetheless,
yeah, especially when Dustin Brown's their captain.
Oh God, no.
Yep, and Fleury's their goalie, and Phaneuf's on the blue line.
Oh wow.
And Rick Nash on the forward.
They could be a captain before they even get to do the draft.
They're gonna have a good team.
They're gonna have a good team, but it'll be interesting to see how they get assembled for sure.
And who's gonna coach?
That too, for sure. So.
Oh, by the way, congratulations, Sergei Makarov.
You. It's like you're reading my mind. So there's a couple of things we want to talk about. Sergei Makarov becomes the 4th Shark. I say 3rd, but technically it's officially a 4th Shark.
What? You don't want to?
Who do you not count?
You don't want to relive the glory days of Rob Blake?
No, I don't count. I count Rob Blake. I'm not counting.
You don't
Belfour.
Count Timu?
No, I don't count Belfour.
He's not one of them.
Yeah, he is.
Larionov.
It's Larionov, Makarov, Blake, and Belfour.
Still on
the 14s.
No, Solani's not in yet. My bad.
Solani's not in it. Yeah. So those are the 4.
What the hell is Belfour doing in the hall? I didn't know that.
I guess he paid them $1 billion to get in.
He won a single ring, and he was the wrong goalie traded from that Blackhawk team.
Maybe it's the Leaf effect or something. I don't know.
Maybe
But
it's because you had a goon and Darian Hatcher standing in front of you who's a tree, and nobody wants to go buy him.
or Craig Ludwig's like 15-inch wide
Darian
shin
Hatcher's
pads.
the ugliest man to ever play the sport of hockey. You can quote me on that.
I thought that would have been me. So well. But I never played in the NHL except if you count the fantasy camp. But yeah,
Makarov's a little bit before my time.
Makarov, of course, renowned for being on the Red Army teams, two-time gold medalist. He had his final heyday reunited with Larionov on the infamous Ov line for the Sharks in that great '94 playoff run.
I've seen the VHSs.
Oh yes, trust me, I have
Greatest
one on my
turnaround.
personal. Yes, that's on YouTube, by the way. If you haven't seen those guys,
I'm very aware. You're talking to a man who's seen every Sharks video that exists.
I know, because you have it readily available. I need to invade that like crazy. You have no clue.
I'm pretty sure I have that greatest turnaround. I think that I have that on VHS tape as well, actually.
I'm pretty sure Sports Illustrated just mailed it to every single house in the country that year because we're the only team that would throw a parade after a second-round loss.
We love our team that much. Yes!
We were just a really bored city at that time, I think.
Well, but to kind of go through, but to kind of have that comeback of sorts, where you finish 11-71 and then you start losing.
It was great. Ulf Dahlin.
Ulf Dahlin, dude, that guy was just a crazy run on that playoff run. What a great move!
What an awful helmet, though. There was Jofa, Jofa.
Oh, Jofa, classic.
Worst ever.
Who, Urbe?
Ugh.
Oh, gotcha.
He's the only one that could wear that. And like Dominic Kosik's mask, like that's iconic. Osgood too.
Yeah, Osgood.
I love Osgood. One game, he was the backup goalie for the Red Wings, and this is before they added on to the bench, so the backup goalies had to sit where the away team enters the ice. Except he was sitting even further back where the TV crews would hang out just so they can watch the little TVs there and do the interviews right off the ice. And he had me get him a full-size Chicago hot dog. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten those from the concessions upstairs. That's my favorite concession, by the way. Best deal, best hot dog. Go check them out. That's their plug. But he had me get him one every period. He ate 3 of these things. And these things are huge during the game. And he could have gone in at any time for old Jimmy Howard. But he was confident enough in his boys that he wasn't going to have to. And then the next time I saw him, I reminded him of it. And he just looks at me. He said, "Don't you ever fucking repeat that story again."
And he just did, folks, here on Pucknology After Dark.
Chris Osgood. Gotta love him.
Gotta love it. All right, so let's get to Thursday night. It's the proverbial rematch game with St. Louis. Of course, we all know it was a 6-game series that's got us to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time. Definitely a different-looking team this go-around. There is no Brian Elliott. It's Jake Allen and Carter Hutton manning the goals.
No David Backes either.
No David Backes. He's off to Boston. Hockey Jerk, what do you expect from St. Louis on Thursday?
I expect it to be a very physical game just because that's how St. Louis likes to play. They're very aggressive. They're very, check first kind of mentality. I could see this game going one of two ways. I think it's either going to be like very dominant performance by the Sharks, or I think the Blues are just going to come out and just roll us.
Randall?
I think the Sharks are they're going to bring it next game. I think they're going to see it as a big game. They don't want to be showed up against those guys because St. Louis does want to win this game, especially at home in front of their fans. I just think we have a better team than they do. I just think we match up really well against St. Louis. I always thought we did. I don't think they are. I think that their main superstar is obviously Tarasenko, and if we just play the same strategy like we do against a team like Washington and Tampa, see, like those teams, they focus all their offense around those two guys, even though they have other weapons. Where Pittsburgh, they kind of moved their weapons around, so it was kind of hard to focus. Where St. Louis is kind of a team where they focus all their attention in one direction, and I think that's where we have an advantage.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And St. Louis is an interesting one because they tend to do really well, it seems like, every year. But honestly, their roster, with a couple exceptions, their roster doesn't really scare me at all. And
I don't think they expected to lose Backus.
Yeah, seriously. But I don't know, just kind of to bring it back a little bit to last spring, I was very surprised that series went 6 games. And I think if the Sharks can get things going early on, I think they're going to be okay on Thursday.
I'm right with you guys. I think that the Sharks will be up for this game. They know how much of I try not to say revenge factor of sorts, but St. Louis is going to be wanting to prove something, and right now they're tied for third in the Central. They're sitting in the top wild card spot. They're going to want to get things going here at 7-6-3. It's not exactly the best start in the world, but at this point, why not? Why not get it going against a team that knocked you out? Make them send a message. This is what I was preaching for Pittsburgh. You send a message that last year wasn't a fluke, even though it's this year. I know, Gen X, I know. But what better way to get that in their heads? Like, oh shoot, we got to work harder than what we've already worked on. We've worked before. So I think it'll be a big test for them. I think they need to come out guns a-blazing, and hopefully that'll change things around for a team that's been on a strong road trip so far. 3-1 is not bad at all. I mean, we can only wish to have a 6-0 road trip like we did last year. 5-1 would be just as good. No question about it. Let's see.
Yeah,
Let's look at.
I agree with you. And if you're looking for something else you want to cling on to as you watch that game on Thursday, this season the Sharks are undefeated against teams they played in the playoffs last year.
Except for Pittsburgh.
Right, sorry. Undefeated against teams they beat in the playoffs last year. My mistake.
Okay.
Gotcha. I'm just making sure we're getting that.
Sorry, I've blocked out all of that Pittsburgh stuff. As far as I'm concerned, we never played them.
There. All right. Questions in the chat. Sleepy Mofo, are we expecting Melker Carlson to return on Thursday?
Why? It's a road trip, probably not.
Yeah, I would doubt it.
The earliest I see him getting back in is probably when we go back home.
We need to rush him back in the lineup when we're already on the road. It's just a hassle. Exactly.
And for that matter, hey, I think Kevin LeBanc has been doing a pretty decent job. So you use your depth to your advantage to get fully healthy. You don't need to rush him.
He's not noticeably bad, and that's enough.
Exactly, and he's not getting on the score sheet. But honestly, on this road trip, I think Kevin LeBanc has been one of the Sharks' best players. And if you'd like to hear me elaborate, check out Pucknologists, either tomorrow night or Thursday morning.
Absolutely.
Hell of a plug there. You guys are getting pros over here. You got the ads, you got the plugs. You guys are just getting all big show over here, huh? You guys are just getting prime time.
No. We've been trying to get better, and we're trying to provide the best as much Sharks content as we could possibly can. Of course, Gen X. This is a great random question because it involves Brent Burns. So why not? Who would Brent Burns select in Mario Kart?
Waluigi all the way.
No, Donkey Kong.
I think those are both good choices, by the way. There's this Felix. Hey, Felix, how are you? Great to see you in the chat. Does all this scoring continue later into this season, or do the coaches try to tighten it up?
Does all the what?
Does all Does all the scoring continue late? I don't. Felix, I'm not quite
What
sure. I don't.
scoring?
Yeah, there hasn't been much scoring. I think they've already tightened
Joe
it up.
Thornton's name has been said the least amount of times probably this far into a season in his career. Pavs isn't nearly on pace of what he had last year. I mean,
Neither is Logan
these are
or
these are
anybody for that matter.
it's just like that's what the stats are, but it's not anything. It's what it's going to be at the end of the season. But there hasn't been scoring this year. But the fact that we're still winning those games is what matters because we're not having to bring our A game every night, and we're still coming out with a win.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I saw a stat, or it was like a chart, and I feel really bad because I can't remember the name of the person who posted it, but it basically said, amazing how well the Sharks are doing considering how unlucky they've been. And I know Drew can help me out here because he's the percentages guy, but I think the Sharks have the highest, I guess, unluckiness in the entire league, and they're still sticking around with the top teams.
Yeah, I mean they aren't scoring on a torrid pace, but they're still second in the Pacific. So, Rocket Backer is saying Princess Peach is what he would go with. Laurel, hi Laurel, longtime fan. Do we keep the best record in taking the least amount of penalties? They only took one penalty tonight, so I think they've been very disciplined. They haven't been going too off guard and taking dumb penalties.
Yep, I just would like to see how we react if somebody takes a run at one of our guys or a situation like the Kadri Sedin thing happened. Like, if you're Vancouver and you're playing Toronto and Toronto's beating you up, are you expecting Nazem Kadri to knock your all-star's head off with a cheap shot like that?
Oh no.
No.
No,
And
no.
like, let's say somebody decides to take liberties with, let's say a hurdle, or let's say maybe Timo Meyer just comes up and he's been up for a month and a half and he's doing okay, and somebody decides they want to take a run at him. Like, who in our lineup is going to step up and ring the bell? Like, at worst case, we knew we had Ryan Clough up there. We knew we had a guy like Douglas Murray, or we knew if Joe Thornton's on the ice, he's going to do something, and Burns would too. But, like, are we an intimidating team? Like, I know we have size, as in, like, we have players that are big, but, like, if we get into a real chippy game, like, are we going to be able to hold our own?
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't say the Sharks have any enforcers or any guys who have a reputation as being tough to play against, but we definitely have a lot of guys on our team who are not afraid to throw hands and have shown they can. Brendan Dillon, Tommy Wingles, Joe
Vlasic
Thornton.
showed he will too.
Vlasic, yeah, even Tomas Hertl a little bit this year and at the end of last year.
I'd rather him not.
Right.
He's like the last. Couture and Hertl are the two guys he would not want swing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, obviously Hertl had his little whatever you want to call it earlier this year, but there were a lot of times last year, and I remember in the playoffs against LA, Dustin Brown was getting in his face, and Hertl pretty much gave him the rock bottom. So Hertl's not afraid to get physical.
That was different, though. That was personal.
Right.
Let's see. If the offense stays dry, do we see maybe a Goldobin call up? I'm thinking you're going to see maybe a Meyer call up.
I see Meyer before Goldobin. I see Goldobin being down there all year.
I mean,
he'll probably play 10 or 15 games, but I mean, like,
I really see this year being like in 2013, where the Sharks moved away some pieces and were still competitive. I absolutely see that happening. I think, the obvious ones are Wingles and Nieto, but I could even see Melker Karlsson be a guy who's moved out if we have Barracuda, if Barracuda guys were on the doorstep. And, I know there are people out there who are going to be offended or be upset with what I'm saying, but honestly, one of those guys who I don't see leaving is Michael Haley, because whether you want to admit it or not, he is the perfect 13th forward.
The fans love him. He's there for the teammates. We all know what he did in the Islanders. He went after a goalie. The guys love him. And Karlsson, I know he's good, but realistically, I think we could see his potential. I don't think we're going to see anything spectacular out of him. I don't see him being like a top 6 NHL forward in the coming years.
I'm
All
very
right,
on. I'm sorry. I just want to say one more thing. I'm very on and off with Melker Carlson, because there are some games where I see him out there and I'm just kind of like, why do we have this guy on our team? But then there are other times where I see him and I'm like, wow, we have him on such a bargain and he's so good. We can't get rid of him. And it's hard to be in that pickle, because
I think he plays better.
You'd like to see him, get on the score sheet, but at the same time, he's such a good penalty killer. He's probably one of our best.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I mean, that's a position that you can fill in with other players. I mean, to have a top penalty killer, that's an expendable role.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Spalling is a prime example.
Scott Nickel.
Yeah, still salty about Nick Spalling, by the way.
Manny Malhotra.
Brody's BFF, Scotty Nickel.
Oh yeah.
To basically,
I'm gonna have to head out in a couple minutes here, guys.
Yeah, we're about to wrap it up as it is. So final thoughts. By the way, Barracuda won 4-0 today, and probably the earliest start time I've ever been up for a hockey game. Meyer with the goal and assist. 2 goals from Sorensen. Chartier with the empty netter as well.
I think Sorensen could get brought up too. Sorensen and Meyer.
Yeah, no, Sorensen could be
not Sorensen. I still think he needs to adjust to North America.
They really like him though.
Yeah, that is true. They do like
him.
But
love him.
There are guys I would pick before Sorensen. I would pick. Yeah. I mean, obviously LeBanc is up. I would pick Timo Meyer. I would pick Nikolai Goldobin because yes, his give a shit meter has been questioned the last little while, but he leads the Barracuda in points. He is consistently all around the puck with the Barracuda, and I think an extended look for him with some big minutes in the NHL, I think he might be able to prove something.
Our entire team is going Euro. Like, I don't know who this mystery man that we have out in Europe who's just racking up all these mystery men, but like we're going to have just Couture, Burns, and Pavelski as the only non-Euros on our team. Jones.
Speaking of people soaring and going crazy, Winnipeg is now up 4-0 on Chicago.
Oh my God.
Laine with a goal.
He's so sick.
I can't see Temu's record being broken, but
that'll never get broken.
But he's going to be a solid guy.
All right, rookie will be lucky to get that many points and win rookie of the year.
Precisely. In fact, I think 12. I think is 12 goals. I think their leading point getters, Pavelski and Burns, have 12 points. To put it into perspective. Final thoughts.
At the same time, yes, Laine has 12 goals, but on the flip side, he also, I think, only has 4 assists.
Exactly.
So, pure goal scorer. He's not going to rack up a bunch of points.
He's like Ovechkin. You put him on the point, and you get him that puck, and he's just going to score.
Exactly.
All right, final thoughts. I'll start with you, Randall, since you got to jump out really quick.
Yeah. These are just another example of a game that you don't want to overreact to as a fan. I know it can be frustrating, especially investing your time at 4 o'clock on a weekday to be watching hockey in Carolina, but it's part of a hockey season. There's going to be games that you win, and there's going to be games that your team just doesn't show up, and that's part of the season. But the fact that we lost 1-0, we only lost by 1 goal playing the way we did, that should mean more than anything coming out of this game. Just shaking it off, just keep going through the routine of this road trip, and then once the calendar turns over, we're going to have a lot of games at home. These road trips are going to add up, and I don't know the next time we'll hop on with you guys, but appreciate you guys having me on. I haven't been logged the last couple of games. I've just there's been some other stuff I've been going through, but I'll be back on it next week for the home games. So yeah, keep checking in. It'll be on 98.5 KFox. All the games, the blog will be up there. And I don't know if you guys heard about this. CSN California announced that they're going to be streaming all pre, post, and Sharks games through their website.
Yeah, I think it's really smart.
They could do pre and the game action, but of course, you'd rather be here online for the post game show. I would just play that out. Of course,
I just think it's cool that they're actually making that available, and the fact that people don't have to just go buy the single team package. accessible for Sharks fans, which shows that they are serious about making it expand, which I also think is a sign that they want to move them over to a different radio station in the next couple of years, which I hope doesn't happen, but it's kind of looking that way. We're not going to say anything else about
we
that.
won't go anything on about that. But
all right, well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's good catching up with you guys. Good talking some puck, even though we lost 1-0.
yes,
But,
definitely. You can follow
thanks.
Randall on Twitter at Hunter.
Oh, and if you're actually watching us creeps talking about a Sharks 1-0 loss in North Carolina, like on Tuesday night, like you guys are the real true MVPs. You guys are the real fans, because we're just lonely and we want to talk about hockey, but nobody around us likes it enough that we can do that. So we have to come online and talk about amongst ourselves, and you guys are actually entertained by it. And I'm amused by it, but I'm also very grateful of it, and thank you.
Appreciate it, Randall. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Randall.
Hockey Jerk, your final thoughts before we get out of here?
Randall put it pretty nicely. It's a 1-0 loss, and it's deflating is what it is. But you have to move on. You can't dwell on it. I mean, the Sharks went to the Stanley Cup final last year, and how many times in that run were they saying, well, remember on November the 4th of 2015 when we lost this game by this many goals? No, right. Nobody cares because it's November. If the Sharks are still in this position by January, by all means, at me on Twitter and tell me that I need to get my head out of the clouds. But until then, just stick the course. The wins are going to come, and follow Pucknologists on Twitter.
Way to get that one last plug in. AJ will be proud of you. Very proud of you. And as you should, because you should subscribe down below here for Pucknology After Dark. Make sure you also subscribe for Pucknology Writers Room. You're welcome, Ian Reed. Make sure you hit up pucknology.net for all your news, game days, and opinions, along with making sure you hit up with all the podcasts where you have iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher. Ian Reed, help me out.
MySpace.
MySpace. I think we actually have a MySpace profile now because Ian said we had to be everywhere. Rocket runs our Pucknology Instagram. Make sure you hit that up. So until Thursday night, we will be back then, and we will be with you all the rest of the way. Keep it real, keep it tight, keep it real tight, and we'll see you after the Blues game on Thursday night. Good night, everyone.